Hello, everyone. It's Wednesday, June the 8th, and again, we've had only 4 real deaths that we've had in the last, since we were together the day before yesterday, but we have 6 reconciliation deaths, and we surely want to pay tribute and honor to all these folks, and so I ask for your prayers in every way. We're up to 6,997 deaths. We're right on the doorstep of 7,000, and that's it's just tragic. I don't know anything else we can say. But the 6,978th death is a 71-year-old male from Kanawha County. The 6,979th death is a 66-year-old male from Wayne County. The 6,980th death is a 65-year-old male from Raleigh County. The 6,981st death is a 73-year-old male from Raleigh County. The 6,982nd death is a 71-year-old female from Raleigh County. The 6,983rd death is an 81-year-old male from Raleigh County. The 6,984th death is a 77-year-old female from Mason County. The 6,985th death is a 72-year-old male from Raleigh County. The 6,986th death is a 73-year-old male from Putnam County. The 6,987th death is an 81-year-old female from Cabell County. The 6,988th death is a 72-year-old male from Kanawha County. The 6,989th death is an 83-year-old male from Jackson County. The 6,990th death is a 76-year-old female from Raleigh County. The 6,991st death is a 62-year-old female from Preston County. The 6,992nd death is a 74-year-old female from Mineral County. The 6,993rd death is a 74-year-old male from Lincoln County. The 6,994th death is a 64-year-old male from Wetzel County. The 6,995th death is a 54-year-old male from Lewis County. The 6,996th death is a 67-year-old female from Kanawha County. And the 6,997th death, a 42-year-old male from Monongalia County. Again, many prayers, many thoughts. You know, active cases are still pretty high. There are 2,272 active cases, 632 new positive cases. The daily positivity rate is 6.96. The cumulative rate is at 8.14. Recovered cases a little over 511,000. 179 hospitalized, 30 in the ICU units, and 9 on ventilators. All counties remain green and yellow. Now we've shifted it back a little bit more toward the green. That part looks good. You know, I caution everybody, you know, about the fact that from the standpoint of new positive cases or whatever, we have the home testing kits and everything now. Today, you know, we got to watch that these numbers could be a little bit distorted, you know, from the standpoint that we just don't know exactly how bad really is, but this is very infectious. And so be on your toes, please. From the standpoint of your booster shots, I've told you over and over and over how important that is, especially if you're 50 and older. Absolutely, your immunity is, for all practical purposes, gone if you're out of that window and you need the booster shot, so please go get it. Please go get it. From the standpoint of all of our vaccine distribution update, the numbers continue to just crawl, and they, you know, go up just a little by little and everything. Our 65 and older at 91.2%. That and the 50 and older at 83.8%, you know, those numbers are outstanding. I mean, that's all there is to it. You know, where we're falling short is our kids, but we want to encourage the parents and everything to get their kids, you know, vaccinated. And whatever we do, we got to stay really on top of all those booster shots. Vaccine calculator is up. I mean, Dr. Marsh, WVU, so many different people, you know, put that up and are assisting people as to when to get your vaccine, when to get your booster shots, and on and on. All the information on the vaccine info line and free testing is available on our website. We have 82 outbreaks in our long-term care facilities, none in our church community, 155 inmates, and 27 staff cases. I remind you over and over about the rental assistance program and the homeowner assistance program. There's still significant dollars there. We can get them to you. Absolutely, all we got to do is talk with you and make sure we can get you qualified. No question, it'll be incredible help to you, but it helps the state. It helps the state from a multiplier effect, and we want to first and foremost take care of you, but we got to get you properly qualified, and the only way we can do that is you call us. I remind you over and over about giving blood. It's important stuff and everything. You can save lives and everything. Check with your physician, and if they say go, please consider it. Okay, a hot button and everything. We need to go through this real quick, and that is, I came out on Monday and I said, I'm just reconsidering the idea of the possibility of calling a special session in regard to the gas tax holiday. Well, I did that specifically for a reason, because, to just tell it like it is, if you go back to late February, early March, when the Democrats were hollering, we want a gas tax holiday and everything, I thought it was nothing but grandstanding. I still think it's just that, grandstanding. To associate me with that group of people that are doing just exactly what I think they're doing, and that's grandstanding, that's just as wrong as it can possibly be. A lot of their philosophies I am adamantly against in every way. But the why is just this. A lot of folks, now, we stare up at signs that says gasoline at $5. And it is a different animal right now today than it was. Before we could stand, the possibility of a $2.80 a gallon gas price. Today, it's hurting, and I know it's hurting. And I know for the fact, that people that are out there that, whether they drive 20,000 miles and it equates to a $25 deal, or they drive 40 or 50,000 miles and it equates to a $50 deal, $25 and $50 to those people is really important, and we should not lose focus with it. Now, the bottom line to the whole thing is just simply this. I didn't think it was a good idea before, and to be perfectly honest, I still really don't think it's a good idea. Because really, at the end of the day, some way, somehow, we've got to get through this. I'll get to this in just a second. The blame lies specifically right at the feet of the administration in Washington, D.C. It does not lie with West Virginians. It lies flat right at the feet of the people in Washington, D.C. And I'll get to that in just one second. From the standpoint of our people and this issue, it's completely dead. And I'll tell you exactly why it's dead. We really hadn't heard from the majority of the legislatures, from the standpoint of the majority in the House and the Senate. We hadn't heard from them, and they were probably being pretty silent. A lot of people are, questioning me, why am I not moving on this and everything? And I really felt pretty strongly that it would be a waste of time. Well, we heard from the majority, did we not? And they do not have an interest. From the standpoint of now, calling a special session in regard to a gas tax holiday, it is absolutely going to be two things: a total waste of time, and on top of that, it will absolutely cost the taxpayers money. It's dead. It's gone. That's all there is to it. That situation is over. Now, I got to say this, and I really mean this with all in me. We've done a lot of great work. Primarily, the great work has been done through the governor's office and the majority in the House and the Senate. And we're really proud of that work, and we want to continue to do that great work, and we're going to just continue to do exactly just that. Now, I caution because from the standpoint of going out and significantly reducing a tax, no matter what it may be and everything, I caution the fact that, first of all, whatever we do, I love the fact that we're reducing taxes. I love that in every way. But absolutely, whatever we do, we cannot break the law to where there's clawback. And there's clawback that could cause us all kinds of issues that absolutely would really hurt us. Now, so that's A. And B is just this. All along the way, I have thought that it was really prudent to not be wasteful and grow government, grow the size of government. You know, if we base build by doing something, and what I mean by that, if we add to the budget in just anticipation that the dollars are going to be there, or the hopes that we're going to grow, and then all of a sudden if things turn a little bit bad, we got to really mind the store. I have said it over and over and over. And if things were to turn a little bit bad, we remember what it was like when a previous governor sold all the maintenance equipment, you know, of our state, and we had no way to take care of our roads. Or we know what it could be like, you know, if really and truly things turned upside down. And we've kept a pretty flat budget, you know, and we've kept that for a long time now. And we've had surpluses that we've been able to do things that were really one-time expenditures that really made a big difference. And West Virginia is doing it right now. So we got to be cautious. You know, not that I'm not for, but we got to be cautious to abide by the law where there's not a clawback. And the other thing we got to be cautious about is to not base build to where we get ourselves bloated, and then if things were to happen to turn maybe not the way we want them to turn, you know, really and truly we're left standing there holding the bag, and then we got to start back like we were when I walked in the door, cut, no answers but cut, you know, and that would be tragic today. The other thing I would tell you is just this, from the standpoint of the significance of a gas tax holiday day, and I've known this all along. For all practical purposes, you're looking at pulling out of our system, you know, $36 to $40 million that could be going towards building roads and fixing slips and guardrails and everything else under the sun. At the end of the day, that will give us decades and decades of benefit. Now, I'd end by just saying just this, and this is all there is to it. I don't know where this nation's going. I know that we absolutely should have total energy independence in this country. Right off the get-go, Biden, driven by these left-wing nut jobs, you know, came out and tried to stab West Virginia right in the heart and say, we don't need gas and we don't need coal. And West Virginia, you would die on the vine and become a state park. That was the very first move. That message rippled across the entire globe. And then that message, because of our lack of energy independence and many other things, an invasion from the southern border and the Afghanistan debacle, and it just goes on with what we're doing as far as people and crime and all across this country. All of a sudden, people became emboldened, the Russians, and they invaded Ukraine. And now we have a situation to where our people in this great state are driving, looking up at a sign that says gasoline $5. And really and truly, it is all driven absolutely right at the feet of President Biden and this absolute out-of-control administration in D.C. I'd change it. I'd change it in a heartbeat if I could. Absolutely, these people don't know anything but one way. They could care less about West Virginia in every way. That's all there is to it. We would be an afterthought in their world, and that's exactly where we stand. So the long and the short of it is, from the standpoint of a gas tax holiday, there's no point in you calling me. I mean, really and truly, we know exactly now where the majority stands, and the majority says they're not interested. To be perfectly honest, I wasn't interested before in the first place. The last thing on the world, that you need to do is associate me with some Democrats that wanted to stand up on a soapbox and be popular back at a time when I did I not say, what in the world would we do if we do a gas tax holiday at the beginning of March or whenever it was, latter February and everything, and at that time, people get back, $20 or $30 or whatever it may be, and gas prices go to $4. God knows. I wish they'd only gone to $4. And we may sit back and wish that they would stop at $5. Now, I'd be open to anything that anybody would come up with to try to help our people. But this situation is dead on arrival. The majority's spoken, and it's dead on arrival. And you know where I've stood before, and I've thought about it, and absolutely, I do still contend that the very best thing is to put our money, keep our money going toward our roads and fixing slips and guardrails and everything that make absolutely West Virginia better. We got some real issues and real concerns, and I totally understand people's concerns and people hurting over this terrible inflation situation. I've got a few more announcements and everything. All the COVID court cases that we had where people, were suing, from the standpoint of playing sports, not playing sports, closing bars, not closing bars, this and that and everything. We've been through every single one of those cases, and probably the only state in the country, we won every single case. And so what did that really tell us? We made the right decisions. The final cases were just dismissed last week. We made the right decisions all the way through. Sports, yes, no. Bars, yes, no. Restaurants, whatever it may be, we made the right decisions per the courts. And I'll bet you all the money in Texas, there's probably not many states out there that can stand and say, the courts have said and upheld that every single one of our cases we won. I don't think there's probably many other states that can claim that. From the standpoint of the fentanyl bill, I'll be real short and I'll be real sweet about that. It's up now, and really at the end of the day, what we're basically doing is putting a line in the sand and saying, okay, big boys and girls, you bring fentanyl into West Virginia, we're going to toast your you-know-what. That's all there is to it. And it's going to be tough sledding for you. The penalties, the jail time, and on and on and on is going to be astronomically different than it has been, and absolutely it just tickles me to death because this situation with what's happening at our southern border and this fentanyl absolutely is just killing people, and especially our kids right and left, and it's tragic beyond belief. There's a Waterfall Trail now, and tourism is announcing that this is the first ever Waterfall Trail organized by the tourism department, and there's going to be prizes if you visit so many of our waterfalls all across our state, and they're beautiful beyond all possible comparison. I've got to read you this because these are the notes that I got from tourism, and Secretary Ruby, I want you to hear this and hear this really clearly, because I don't really believe exactly this is what we meant. But the second bullet point reads, the trail target travelers are, it says the trail targets, I said target, but the trail targets travelers looking to get off the beaten path. And so I don't know if that meant the beaten path, I would think, but we don't want our waterfalls to turn into baths for people, but nevertheless, there's been a lot of great work, and tourism is doing unbelievable, and Chelsea has done a phenomenal job beyond all comparison. It's just unbelievable. But there's some people here to really, really thank. I lead off by thanking Secretary Ruby for an incredible job, but the Boone County Truck Driving Academy, the Division of Forestry, the Division of Natural Resources, the West Virginia State Parks, the National Park Service, the U.S. Forest Service, Correctional Industries, the Department of Transportation, and the Convention and Visitors Bureaus. There's been and I'm sure there's many, many others and everything. It's surely been a big-time team effort, a lot of signs put up and a lot of stuff and everything. It'll be a lot of fun for people and everything, but the beauty is unsurpassed. I mean, I said it 10,000 times. If you'll just get out and you'll let the nature and the beauty of this state touch your soul, it'll change your life. Now, you know, as far as the Arpa broadband funding, we've got Secretary Carmichael, and he's going to go through all the great stuff that's happening about broadband. But Mitch, if you'll take over, please, and I'll be quiet for a few minutes.
Well, thank you, Governor. It's a pleasure to join you in this conference today, because I can confirm for you that West Virginia has received one of the first awards of ARPA money for broadband. In fact, we are one of 4 states to have received this award already. And we're so thrilled, and we want to appreciate, you must have had a crystal ball or something when you originally chartered us in our department to go after every single dollar and to put incredible emphasis on developing the programs that can then pull down the federal funding for this incredibly important service. Broadband internet delivery is vital, as we all know, in a 21st century economy. But not only that, the pandemic highlighted the needs for broadband in areas such as distance learning, so that children and adults can learn at home and continue their education process, and for telehealth initiatives, so that our citizens can interact with their physicians and other healthcare providers and specialists the world over. And then remote work, and as you mentioned, Secretary Ruby and others who have put so much emphasis on attracting a workforce to West Virginia that has the capability to interact on a worldwide basis through broadband technology. This is an incredible moment that we should be so proud of. You have directed and led the effort to expand broadband in our state, and I think from the very first time we met several years ago, you had said that this is a priority for the state of West Virginia. You've asked for funding from the legislature, and you've chartered this department and given me the authority to go after these funds. And happy to report to you that West Virginia, one of only 4 states to have received their funding, and will be deploying these assets to serve over 25,000 new residents with new homes with broadband internet connections. So thank you very much, and look forward to continuing our progress and connecting all of West Virginia with world-class broadband delivery services. Thank you.
Well, let me say this, Secretary Carmichael, what an incredible job you've done. And I really mean that, and I'm really, really, really proud. It, you know, honestly, I don't know how in the world we could have possibly selected anyone that's fallen into the position of economic development and done the job that Mr. Carmichael's done. And you know, his knowledge about broadband that he brings to the table is off the chart, and we're on our way. We're on our way doing great stuff, and we want to absolutely not stop until we touch every single home, and we're going to stay at it. But Mitch, thank you so much for all you do every day.
Thank you, Governor.
Got one more fellow that's with us today, and that's our curator of the arts and everything, and that's Randall Reed Smith. And Randall, if you could tell us what's going to happen, you know, on her birthday, we have a lot of, oh, look at you today. Don't you look good? I love it. That's good. That's great. I mean, I love it. Okay, Randall, take over.
Hi, Governor. Thank you for letting me come by today. We spoke a couple months ago, and the governor's decided that every West Virginia Day, June 20th, we are going to have a Golden Horseshoe reunion. So we are inviting all Golden Horseshoe winners all the way back to 1931 to come and join us at 12 o'clock noon on June 20th at the Culture Center. You can find out about all the details on our website at www.wvculture.org. We look forward to everybody being there at 12 noon. And then also at 2 p.m. on that day, we will have a Legends tournament for the past History Bowl champions. We'll have 8 teams competing for prizes. That'll happen at 2 o'clock on West Virginia Day. And Governor, as you know, the First Lady has an art series, and her initiative for June 20th, the birthday, is to have an official West Virginia birthday cake. And so there are recipes coming in. and we will unveil the official West Virginia birthday cake. And Governor, I've got two more quick things. Last month on May 19th, I went up to Berkeley County for you and presented them with a proclamation. On May 19th, 1772, 250 years ago from that date, they had the first county commission meeting in Berkeley County. I was very honored to be a guest of Doug Copenhaver, who is the head of their county council, and he presented me with medallions for you, and this is their official 250th medallion, which I will make sure that you get, and a pin for you. And they were just very grateful for your support of the museum exhibit that you helped them with at the library. And so I will give that to you later, Governor. And the last thing, June 14th, next week, we have 3 Golden Horseshoe ceremonies. And the First Lady, the art series, the Department of Education, the CTE schools, and Culture and History, they did a sword competition to have historic significance, and they created the first sword to, knight all of the knights and ladies of the Golden Horseshoe ceremony. And Governor, I have my Golden Horseshoe on today. I have an honorary one. And on that day, Governor, you are receiving an honorary Golden Horseshoe. And we're very, very proud. Our friend Jeff Bryant, school superintendent in Greenbrier County, they're the only ones that can nominate somebody for an honorary Golden Horseshoe. And we did this because of all that you do for kids in our state, for West Virginia history. I mean, you support History Bowl to the max. Ambassadors Camp is that week. We'll have 110 eighth graders there on the 20th, and we will actually knight you in front of all the reunion, and you'll get knighted with this sword, and you'll get your Golden Horseshoe. Now, is there anything I can do for you, Governor?
Well, you've done a lot right there. I'll tell you, those kids work so hard, and that's an achievement that they carry with them the rest of their lives. And I can't imagine that you're doing this for me, but it will be something that I'll treasure, and I can't thank you enough, because I just know how hard those kids work. I mean, really and truly, it's really special, and to have that honor and everything, I thank you so much. And so, I got to say this, I really, I was watching Mitch and I was watching Randall, and they're both really close friends. And there's times when you just have to start, you just have to say something because you're thinking so much about it. But when we walked in the door, to me, this incredible ride, and I called it a rocket ship ride. It all had to start with the selections of the right people in the cabinet. And if you'll go through all that, we lost Dennis Davis. I think a lot about Dennis. But absolutely, if you go through the folks, and I'm not going to name every one, but it's amazing, the talent. And then you had to have the right people around you in the governor's office to make the right and push the right buttons all along. And then really and truly, you had to be able to work with the legislature and everything, and everybody keep moving north and keep doing what was right for all the people. Now, I'm going to promise you this. It's really been a team. This is not about Jim. It's been about a team that was put together that absolutely have been incredible winners. Now, I will promise you without any question that team was constantly led by one and only, and that's God above. And I believe it with all in me in every way. He decided for Jim Justice to be your governor, and he decided really and truly who for Jim to pick to be their cabinet heads, and how to work with different people and everything. And lo and behold, things really started happening in West Virginia. And I'm going to absolutely just tell you that what I'm going to continue to do is just take his advice and do the best that I possibly can for all the people of this great state. I've said it so many times. We don't really need to be preoccupied first and foremost with being Democrats, Republicans, or independents. We need to be preoccupied with being West Virginians and great Americans. Now, absolutely, with all in me, I know that I'm nowhere close to smart enough to have come up with the ideas that we've come up with and how we've pushed the right buttons. We've got God Almighty that is looking after West Virginia and helping us in every way. And as long as we put him first and foremost and give him the reins and let him guide us, I think he'll take us where we need to go. And so with that, I thank all those that have been a part of this team. They have been unflat believable. And I thank them from the very bottom of my heart. You saw two today. You saw Mitch and Randall, but there's lots more than the two. And so I thank you, and I just absolutely am so proud of all the great work you've done. So thank you so much for letting me ride along with you.
All right, thank you, Governor. We'll now go to Dr. Clay Marsh, our coronavirus czar.
Good morning. As the governor has mentioned repeatedly, we are seeing the impact of the subvariants of Omicron, on the number of cases that we're seeing in the U.S. and in West Virginia. And in fact, even though our hospital numbers have not risen nearly as they did in the previous surge with the BA.1 variant of Omicron, we have seen those numbers go up from the low of about 77 West Virginians hospitalized from COVID-19 in late April to now 188. And that's not said to scare people, but just to recognize that there is still the presence of COVID-19 that is lurking. And when we look at people in the hospital nationally, we see that about 50% of hospitalized people in our country are over the age of 70, and 80% of hospitalized people in our country are over the age of 50. And it's very, very clear that the potency of the vaccines does start to reduce over time. And so that's the reason why, even though we have been good at getting our first and second vaccines, particularly in our older West Virginians, and to some extent the third vaccine, we are still seeing the fourth vaccine that people are now eligible for be underutilized. And in the United States, we talked the other day, only 5% of vaccine eligible Americans today have gotten their up-to-date vaccine, their second booster dose. So it's really important, as the governor said, to go on the vaccine calculator and make sure that if you are eligible for another vaccination, please do that. That is really important because these new variants of Omicron are the most infectious forms of COVID-19 that we have seen yet. In West Virginia, as we said earlier, the BA.2 and the BA.2.12.1 variants are the majority of our cases. But in the United States, we are starting to see the BA.4 and the BA.5 variants start to increase their share of the number of infections, and that almost certainly will come to West Virginia as well. Why is that an important issue for us? It's important because many of the recovery from previous forms of COVID, even early in the Omicron pandemic, the BA.1 variant, the cross immunity does not work nearly as well for the BA.4 and 5 variants. And even the vaccination-induced immunity is not quite as good for those variants as it was for previous forms of Omicron, although still good in protecting people from the most severe consequences, ICU admissions or death. Again, stay up to date with the vaccines and use the vaccine calculator to be able to define that. Two more things. The FDA just granted emergency use authorization to Novavax, which is a new vaccine. It is distinguished from the Pfizer or Moderna vaccines because it does not use the messenger RNA technology. It uses the standard technology to create the vaccine. We know that before Omicron, Even before the Delta variant was circulating, this vaccine works well. We are getting, as we keep tracking people in the research study that got the Novavax, we're tracking them to see how well this works now against the Omicron variants. But this will be 2 shots, 3 weeks apart, and it is indicated by the FDA so far for Americans 18 and older, not for children. There were a few cases of myocarditis, but those all resolved without problem, and the FDA voted unanimously with 1 abstention, 21-0, to approve this, and now we're waiting for the CDC. The second issue is more and more information is coming out on long COVID, the manifestations and the impact of COVID a month or more after people have had the initial infection. And one of the things that's really concerning that's coming out is that in adults at 28 days to 30 days after COVID infection, even milder COVID infection, we are seeing a 59% increase in the generation of type 2 diabetes mellitus. So people that are having blood sugar control problems. And we just got a report out from the CDC that looking at children, we are also seeing a risk in children, although the risk does not appear quite as high as in adults. But it is important to recognize that even people that had normal body weights and had no trouble with diabetes before COVID-19 infection can be at risk for developing diabetes. As we've said before, vaccination does reduce your risk of long COVID. We don't know about the risk of diabetes related to long COVID, but we would presume it would also reduce the risk of that. So another reason to make sure that you're up to date with all vaccinations, and another reason to make sure that we are being thoughtful and careful when we're around a lot of indoor people. And we know that, getting fully vaccinated, testing if you have any symptoms so we can get treatments to you if indeed you are eligible and would benefit from those. And then also looking at, being careful around a lot of other people and improving ventilation in buildings is something else that's been recommended, which is something that we will continue to look into with the appropriate entities. So get vaccinated, stay up to date. The best way to protect you and protect others around you from COVID, from hospitalization, and probably from the long COVID symptoms that are getting to be more and more concerning as we are having more people that have gotten COVID and recovered from. Thank you very much.
Did you get that, Jordan?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Okay. Let me just say this, and it's really important that I say this. In a few minutes ago, we heard from Mitch, Mitch Carmichael. We heard from Randall Reed Smith, and then I made a lot of comments about my team and just all those from the standpoint of all the cabinet heads and the people in my office here and everything. I really left somebody out that is unbelievably important. Just think of the experts or the COVID team we put together. Just think of how blessed we were that WVU stepped up through Clay Marsh and said, I'm all in. I'm here to help. Just think how blessed we were that we just absolutely out of the clear blue nowhere found Dr. Amjad. Think really and truly how hard Bill Crouch has worked, but think how blessed we were off the chart to have General Hoyer and so many others. But really and truly, when it boils right down to it, that team, we took a cannonball right to the stomach in West Virginia. West Virginia was the ripest, if that's a correct pronunciation, of all states and everything from the standpoint of third oldest, most illnesses, located within a rock's throw of 2/3 of the population of the country coming through our state all the time. Absolutely, West Virginia could have been a tragedy beyond all comprehension. Look what these people have done. And please, there's no way on earth, when I thought about it, am I going to continue on here and bring it up at the end of the briefing or whenever it may be. I can't thank you enough from the standpoint of Clay, Dr. Amjad, General Hoyer, Secretary Crouch, and many, many, many others. But boy, you have been so good. So thank you so much. Now, Jordan, you can go ahead. Thank you.
All right. Next, we'll hear from Secretary Bill Crouch with the DHHR.
Thank you, Jordan, and thank you, Governor. It is an honor to serve with these folks and serve the state. So thank you for that. As a part of COVID-19, as a part of the pandemic response, DHHR will issue a special payment of $465 to recipients of the Temporary Assistance for Needy Families program. That's the TANF program. This is for individuals who are active with the West Virginia Work Program in May 2022 and are eligible to continue participation in June 2022. Payment is funded through the TANF Pandemic Emergency Assistance Fund and will assist families with the rising cost of healthy food, beverages, and household goods. It will also assist with the rising cost of transportation for families seeking employment, attending work, or continuing their education. Payment will be credited to the recipient's EBT card, and this will occur on or around June 9th, 2022. For more information, contact your local DHHR office for this. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Secretary. Dr. Amjad, our State Health Officer, is also joining us today and is available for questions. We'll now go to questions from members of the media. The first from Charles Young with the WV News.
Hi, this is Charles Young with WV News. So, Governor, I heard what you said earlier, and it sounds like, the GOP leadership does not have the support for the special session for the gas tax issue. That, that issue is dead, as you said. But are there any steps that you could take without the legislature via, executive order under our state of emergency, just anything to address the price of gas, not necessarily even the gas tax, but, sending everybody in the state a $100 gift card, anything like that that you could do without the lawmakers' input? Thank you, sir.
Charles, I think that it's going to require the legislature's approval, and their ability to appropriate. But Charles, it doesn't mean that we can't quit looking. I want everyone to understand now. I understand wholeheartedly. In the very beginning, there's no question where I stood as far as the gas tax holiday. Not in favor. From the standpoint of just the silence of the majority, and from the standpoint of a lot of people coming to me and questioning me about, the possibility again, and gas prices moving so dramatically up. That was my reason to just stop and pause. As I've said so many times, the right thing a lot of time is stop and pause and tell folks about what you're thinking about, so you'll get all the different opinions and absolutely that you'll know a whole lot more information. From this standpoint, the majority has spoken as to where they stand. It's a total waste of time. I mean, that's all there is to it. From my standpoint, I absolutely recognize and understand the fact, and I'm sure the majority does as well, that really and truly today, even though it's not much money, $25 or whatever may mean a lot to a lot of folks and everything. On the other hand, from the standpoint of what I really believe in my heart that the Democrats did early on was grandstanding. I don't want to be a part of that. I never want to be a part of that. I want to be a part of trying to come up with answers and everything. I'm not into this, from the standpoint of people playing politics because it's an election year and we're getting ready to go to a poll in either May, as we did, or go to go to voting in May or go back to voting in November. And really and truly, all this to me still lies right in the laps of the ultra-liberal Democrats that are influencing President Biden and the just out-of-control situation that our whole nation's in. Now, what do we do? What do we do? At the end of the day, I don't think we quit looking for ways to help our folks and to try to find some way or something that could come up. And I'll stay open-ended to that and everything. But Charles, at the end of the day, there's no question that the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do would be the gas tax holiday. From the standpoint of the right thing to do is keep putting the money toward our roads and everything, because this situation, this is not going to solve anybody's problems, no matter what it may be. From the standpoint of a 30-day holiday, and gas prices in a lot of places in West Virginia yesterday went up almost 50 cents in a day. Well, to give people a 25-cent break, over a 30-day window and everything, with gas prices doing what they're doing, is absolutely not going to do what we need to do to solve and get ourselves going in the right way. But from the standpoint of needing to know where everybody stood and everything, I think we've got a whole lot more information, and to me, we'll keep on looking and stay open-minded to be able to do whatever we can do to help. We'll keep on pushing the President of the United States and those people to get their act together and do something that is the right stuff. And with all that and everything, I don't think we shut our eyes or turn off, on anything and everything that can help. But this issue's dead.
All right, thank you, Charles. Next, we'll hear from Paul Mullen with WCBC.
About something that you touched on in your early part of your briefing, and that is the numbers that we will see now that we are not having the testing sites set up across the state of West Virginia. I wondered how our panel of experts are looking at the numbers then, since those avenues of reporting will not be showing up in the numbers again, and maybe they haven't shown up for a while anyhow. Do they look at the number and say, okay, we only have 2/3 of the people that are probably out there, and this is where we're at? Do we do blips become mountains? Those are the questions I have about the system. Also, if you do self-test and you are positive, is there an avenue to self-report to the system so the experts know what numbers they are dealing with? Thank you.
Paul, I'll refer to Dr. Amjad and Dr. Marsh in just one second, but Paul, just think about this. The testing is still available at pharmacies or health centers or wherever it may be. It's not like people don't have anywhere to go to get tested. And it's available free and everything, just wherever there's all kinds of places that they can go. The problem, Paul, is just this. We don't want that money away, do we? We don't want to absolutely do things that are not the prudent thing about looking after the store. We don't need to set the National Guard out there for a week and have 3 people show up. Absolutely, at the end of the day, that purpose was served. And if we had a really bad outbreak, surely we could bring back that purpose to be able to help us. But really and truly, it's just a waste of time. It is absolutely a government waste of time where people have so many other avenues that they can go and get tested. But as far as how you report a home test positive and everything, Dr. Marsh or Dr. Amjad, y'all answer all that, please.
Yes, Governor. I'll start and then I'll let Clay add to it. So the governor's right, and we just want to repeat that we still have free testing available around the state. Health departments, FQHCs, pharmacies have antigen tests that are out there to use. As far as reporting those, there is no requirement to report those. In fact, the antigen tests are not routinely or home tests called into your health department. What we do ask someone if they test positive at home with an antigen test is to definitely notify your physician or healthcare provider, notify your close contacts, and then self-isolate and go from there. I can give you a little idea of what I think about when I see those numbers. I'll let Clay input that. You know, our testing numbers have decreased significantly, so we know people are not showing up to testing events. So we do know that people are likely using home tests or antigen tests. So we look at it with a grain of salt in a sense, but we also can look at, you know, hospital numbers, how much Paxlovid or other therapeutics are being called out for use. So it is something that you kind of have to look at everything to kind of make that decision moving forward. But I'll see what Clay has to add.
Thank you, Ian, and thank you, Paul, for the question. I think Ian is spot on. The only thing I would add, Paul, is that we very carefully watch what's happening not only in West Virginia and in our country, but what's happening around the world. And we know that the variants that we're seeing now in the US have already caused problems around the world, particularly in South Africa. And so we're anticipating that the new variants that are coming and the variants that are now causing our problems are going to be the most infectious forms of COVID-19 that we have seen to date. And the good news is it looks like that our hospital numbers have not climbed as much as they did during the initial Omicron subvariant, the BA.1 variant, which happened in the winter. And that's what we've seen around the world as well. Study from New York City, though, said that we may be underestimating the number of daily cases by as much as 30 times, which means that we might have 3 million new cases in our country a day. And that is concerning because of the issues that we raised related to long COVID side effects, risk of illnesses, long-term like diabetes, et cetera. And also we know, Paul, that the oldest part of our population is bearing the brunt of these new Omicron variants. So the people that are really getting affected by this are people over 50, where 95% of the deaths in our country have occurred, the 1,100,000 deaths. But also, as we start to look at hospitalization, is the oldest part of our population there. As I said, 50% of U.S. hospitalized people are over 70 years old. And when we look at the over 65-year-old population, 75% of our deaths are in that group. So that's the reason why it's so very important, particularly for our oldest and most vulnerable, to really please make sure that you're up to date with your vaccinations, and please use the vaccine calculator to make it easier for you to know whether or not you are eligible. And if you are, please, please, please go get that vaccination. Makes a huge difference. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Paul. Next to Mark Curtis with Nexstar Media.
Good afternoon, Governor and cabinet members and fellow reporters. Governor, I kind of wish Chelsea Ruby was on the briefing today, but maybe you can answer for me. Are they tracking any cancellations at state parks? It occurs to me we're about to get into the meat of summer vacation season, and some people, because of the gas prices going over $5 a gallon now, may not choose to come. And if that's the case, I'm wondering if you're going to go back to your strategy in the early days of COVID or in the first summer of COVID, where you offered some pretty sharp discounts for West Virginia residents only to book at state parks in order to encourage staycations, especially with the price of gas going up. It may hit $6, $7 a gallon, who knows? But I'm just wondering if there's a strategy out there to maybe discourage people from going to Florida or Myrtle Beach and instead spend their summer vacation at a West Virginia state park, and whether there might be some economic incentives out there offered to do just that.
Well, Mark, as I learn a lot from listening to y'all, and I always make notes and everything, and your ideas, your thoughts are good. I don't know specifically the numbers. I wish Chelsea was on and everything, but I do think the demand of our state parks is off the chart, and it naturally is probably being affected to some degree by these outrageous, crazy gas prices and everything. And but to tell you the truth, I really believe that we're still, as far as our bookings and minimal cancellations, and I just think that I really believe the demand is still phenomenal at our state parks. But I'll check, and and I'll take heed to what you say because it's good stuff. But I wish she was here to answer better than that, but that's all I got.
All right, thanks, Mark. Next, we'll go to Curtis Johnson with WSAZ.
Hey, Governor, thank you so much for taking my question. With these record surpluses, and you celebrate record surpluses all the time, and rightly so, perhaps. I had a Democrat lawmaker heard him say yesterday that these record surpluses are the people's money and should be shared with the people. I had a Republican tell me the exact same thing. But so far, there has been no tax cut, no rebate. So if you agree that these record surpluses are the people's money, how much and when can people expect the money back?
Curtis, let me just say just this. These record surpluses, what have they been used for? What have we been doing with them? You know, these record surpluses have been used to attract all kinds of different, businesses to our state, repair and do all kinds of incredible work to our parks, our roads beyond belief. We have put money, money upon money upon money going towards our roads. Lots and lots of one-time expenditures that absolutely will just go on and on and on forever. Now, we got to be careful. We do have to be careful, because I agree exactly with what you're saying. This is the taxpayers' money. That's all there is to it. This is their money, and we got to be careful that we make the prudent and we push the right buttons. But God knows it's hard to argue. It's hard to argue about pushing the right buttons if the surpluses have gone like crazy versus the deficits that we had before. And on and on and on, whether it be roads or diversification of tourism and manufacturing and all the different things that are happening within our state. I want to celebrate those. I want to celebrate the fact that in tourism, there's all kinds of these travel magazines that are recommending West Virginia. West Virginia is first and foremost. I want to celebrate the fact that West Virginia's image today has changed from that, what I've said so many times, about the backward, poor state and on and on and on, and all the bad jokes, to the diamond in the rough that we've missed. Well, absolutely, without any question, I want to celebrate the good stuff. And so, as we continue to do the right things and everything, we've got to be wary too of all these rules and regulations as far as doing things to cut taxes and this and that and everything. You got to remember two things that I have been a real advocate of and was an advocate of on the first day that I walked in office. And think of the magnitude of this miss. If you want to really get into something, you get into just this. And I'll promise you that this is something that absolutely should be worked from A to Z. Where would we have been if we would have tiered the severance tax on coal and natural gas? Where would this state have been? The coal companies and the gas companies were on board. We didn't do it. We didn't do it. I absolutely begged us to do this on two different occasions. Where would we be today? For all practical purposes, gas prices have gone up 9 times. 9 times what they were. Without any question, those companies are doing really, really well. Our coal companies really, really, really well. Absolutely, where would we be? So, from a standpoint, Curtis, of pushing the right buttons and doing the right thing, yeah, I'm really proud of that. And I want us to keep pushing out these surpluses because they give us the opportunity to do lots and lots and lots of good stuff. At the end of the day, taxpayers' money, want to do the right stuff with it. Absolutely, I would tell you, you can check anywhere and everywhere. I'm not going to do anything. It's a pet project and everything that Jim Justice wants. I'm here to do the right thing for all of us.
All right, thanks, Curtis. Governor, I'll turn it back to you.
Well, at the end of the day, again, you take the flack, I guess, if you're in my position. A lot of people want to stand up and say, I want everybody to know this isn't anything about I. We've got an incredible team, and I'm really proud of them. you know, whether they be cabinet secretaries or all the COVID team or all the folks that work right in my office here, or all the great work we've done together with the legislature and everything. You know, first and foremost, we're here for, I always say, Edith and Toby. And Edith and Toby are our folks out there, great West Virginians that get up every day and get their dinner buckets or whatever they may do and do the great work that's going on within this state all over the place. They're the people that have been hurting. They're the people we're here to represent, and they're the people we need to try to help. And so that, you know, that's the way it's going to be, and I'm not going to change any part of that. So thank you so much.